All right, so we'll start. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Excited to be here. That's actually my first time at Build. I've been at other conferences, so nice to be here, and thanks for joining. We're going to talk about, custom visuals today. So first, my name is Tzvi. I'm a program manager. With me will be co-presenting today Ranin, also from the team, and Joe from Excel. And we're going to talk about custom visuals. So show of hands first. Who here is familiar with Power BI, used Power BI? Oh, nice. Custom visuals, any one of you ever used custom visuals? Familiar? Okay, it's good. Developed one? Oh, nice. Okay, so I think we have like a good perspective of what we're going to cover. So I'm going to give maybe a few minutes of overview of what are custom visuals so we get everyone aligned. So custom visuals are basically, it's a visualization extensibility platform to enable developers to build visualizations on top of the Power BI platform, service and desktop. And it's fully integrated into Power BI. And I think the best way is through an example. So imagine you have a report in Power BI, and you have the sales in a certain store. And you have you have categories and subcategories. So you can show it in the regular bar chart, but it's pretty hard to understand and get insights from it. But if you switch it to a kind of a custom visual that shows you a synoptic map of the store, then you can immediately see that, you can see here that the colors will be the categories, and the subcategories will be on the right side. And you can also see the layout of the store. So it's much more easier to understand where your sales status is with this kind of visual. And also, it's fully integrated in Power BI. So you can highlight, cross-filter. Everything works like any other custom visual in Power BI. In terms of the custom visuals platform, so it consists of several aspects. The first is the developer tool. So the developer tool is open source. You can download it from GitHub. You have the link here. We'll show you also the links at the end of the deck. And the developer tool enables you to create the visuals, to debug it, and eventually package it into the custom visual file where you can then upload to Power BI. You can import, the custom visual platform works with any external JavaScript library. So for example, if you're using D3 or jQuery or WebGL or whatever it is that you want to use, that will work as long as it supports TypeScript. Another thing is debugging and testing. So in Power BI, there is a special visual where you can actually see as you code. So as you do changes in your code, in your JavaScript code, it will automatically recompile. And through a Node.js local web service, it will communicate with Power BI service, and you can see it on the fly. So everything you change in your code, you will be able to see when you code it. Eventually, when you reach a certain point in the development, when you actually want to have some kind of a draft version or a final version that you want to use, you can package it and you can sideload it, the file itself, into Power BI, and you can test it as any other visual. The third part is the marketplace. So once you're done, you have your visual, and you think you want to share it with the rest of the world. You can upload it to AppSource, and we now have over 150 visuals there. So you go to your Windows developer portal, and you can upload it to AppSource. It's fully integrated into all of the Power BI clients, both the desktop and the service. And so eventually, when it's on AppSource, report authors of Power BI can go and select those visuals, discover them and select them, and import them into their reports. One more important aspect is the ability to create custom visuals based on R scripts. So if you want to enable advanced analytics capabilities and plot R scripts in your visualizations, then you can do that. Power BI, both desktop and the service, they know how to run R scripts. So it's basically an R script that lives inside of your visualization. It's run in an R engine, and the output is being exported to the Power BI endpoint. If you're using HTML kind of export, so the visual will be fully interactive. That means that tooltips and filtering will work. So to the question of why actually develop a custom visual, I would say it's a matter of bringing better insights and understanding to your customers. And this is effective whether you're developing inside of your organization, because you have eventually customers that want to consume the data, or you have customers, you're either a vendor or a solution provider, and you want to give your customers a better experience of their data. And if you're a BI solution, then you will have a certain competitive advantage on top of other BI solution providers, because you will bring your customers better visualizations and better looking reports on top of those. And so I want to give you a couple of examples that we have. So one is Enlighten Designs. Enlighten Designs are a very old partner that we have in the store back from the days where custom visuals were basically a web page, what we call the visuals gallery. And they've created a custom visual that's called the aquarium. It's basically like a fish tank where you have fish swimming around, and you can see the size of them according to the value that came from the data. And they've created that expertise of developing like beautiful visualizations. Along the way came an initiative in Power BI called the Data Journalism Program, which the initiative said that it wanted to make data storytelling more accessible and approachable to the media, to journalists. And at some point in that program, the Associated Press came and they said that they wanted to use the platform of that data journalism to create a kind of a real-time election results for the gubernatorial elections in the United States. So they wanted to do Virginia, and I think it was New Jersey and New York and a couple of others. And because Enlighten Design had the capability to create the visualizations, as you can see here. So this is Damon, this is the CEO of Enlighten, and this is Vern, he's one of the developers there, and this is Dan, he's from AP. And this is Lukasz and Karina from Power BI. And so you can see here that they created a special kind of visualization that was just for the Virginia map. And they were probably like from one vendor from a few in the world that knew how to create those things and create the entire solution end to end. It was a big success. AP was were very happy with it. And this was the entire thing, like they could do it in less than 2 weeks. So this was pretty impressive. A very nice example of how you start from a certain expertise and you grow, into a bigger business. Another one that I wanted to show you is Zoom Charts. So Zoom Charts has a solution of very nice visuals, very interactive and cool. And they wanted to integrate with Power BI in order to leverage the Power BI solution. And so what they did, they submitted their visuals to AppSource. They submitted the free visuals, and they put a link both from the store and from inside of their visuals into the premium offer, which has more capabilities. And so users can go and they can buy the premium visuals and use them inside of their Power BI reports. So I wanted to also talk about some of the core concepts of the Power BI platform. And I think the most important thing is the capabilities. So when you go and you create from the developer tools, you create a new custom visual. It basically creates for you the folder structure and a template of the files. And probably the most important one is the capabilities JSON. And it includes three major aspects. One is the data roles. So the data roles is basically what defines the properties, the property list that users will see in the field list, and will be able to select from their data into the data list. So you can define here both the name, the category, and what kind it is, and this will show up in the visualization pane. The second one is the objects. That's basically the properties that you will see, that the user will see in the formatting pane. You can define things like the type of axis, the fonts, the colors, whatever affects the general formatting of your visual. So that's the second aspect. And the third is kind of the glue that binds them together, and that's the data view mapping. And data view mapping is defining how the categories will be related to the measures. So you can define which of the categories will be binded to each of the measures and how. There's a long list of capabilities there. You can read about it in the documentation. Eventually, the output of this in real time when the user is using it for the visual is the data model. And you can see here that the data model that came to the visual here is the categories with the actual categories from the data and the measures that came with it. And then can easily combine the two and get both the category and the values. In terms of how the custom visual development life cycle goes, so first, as I said earlier, you're using the developer tool to create an initial custom visual structure. So this will create the folder list, the folder structure, and the files. Then you can code it on your favorite IDE. So it could be Visual Studio Code or Eclipse, or whatever you prefer. We don't limit you to anything. You can use any type of IDE that is comfortable for you to write TypeScript code. And when you do that, you can import external libraries. So for example, like I said before, D3, WebGL, and whatever JavaScript external library that you want to use. And the code is being written using the visualization APIs that we supply as the Power BI host. And so this brings you additional capabilities that Power BI has. And the next step is testing it. So testing it can be testing it in the development phase through the development visual. You can see as you type, as you code, you can see the visual re-rendering. And eventually, when you're done, you package it. And if you want to submit it to AppSource, you go to the Windows Developer Center and you submit it. It reaches AppSource once it goes through an approval process, and eventually the user, which in this case the data analyst, can consume it from the marketplace and add it to the report. And the feedback loop is being closed with the reviews and ratings that AppSource has as a store. You can go to the GitHub and get all of you have there examples, all the documentation for development is there, and examples of visualizations that we have. And with that, I will hand it over to Ranin to tell you about what's new and what's coming up.
So we release new features in custom visuals constantly as part of the Power BI release. We want to make the custom visuals actually in parity with the core visuals, so giving the end users the same look and feel. So let me now show you what we have recently released. First of all, the report themes, which enables user to apply a color theme to their entire report. It can be seasonal colors or corporation colors or any colors they want to. We provide also a handful ready-made JSON files and the explanation on how to write this JSON file if you want to write your own colors. The second, and this is a snapshot of my report where I have applied different color themes. The second feature is the bookmarks, which enables user to save snapshots and states of their report, which they can easily go back and find, for example, here in the new pane, new bookmarks pane. And this is the code snippet that you can add into your custom visuals and support the bookmarks. This is good, for example, for purposes like storytelling or just going back to your last analysis. And the third one is report page tooltips. It enables user to customize and design the tooltips, so they when they hover over the reports, they will get the tooltips page that they have designed. And this is the code snippet. We also, as Tikis mentioned, we publish this in GitHub with examples and the code snippet that you can add to your code. So let me now show you a short demo on the report page tooltips. Okay, so I have here a report. This is which has custom visuals like the horizontal bar chart, as you see here, and other core visuals. So, for example, this core visual has the default tooltip, where this one we assigned customized one. I have already designed three. As you see here, 3 tooltip pages. And then after the user designed the tooltip page, can put much visuals as they want on this on the tooltip, and then assign it to a specific visual. Now, for the custom visual, for the horizontal custom visual, we have created a new one with we modified the code snippet that I showed you in the previous slide. Now I want to import the new custom visual that support the tooltip. As you see, it was loaded here. We called it different names so that you can see there are 2 versions of it. So let me create a new one here. It was class and sales amount. So now it is the default one. And if I want to assign a customized tooltip, I go to the format, to the format pane, and then there is a toggle, tooltip toggle, which is on. And I can choose, the auto is the default one, and the user can simply choose which, from the list, which page they want to, for example, this one. So as you see, now it supports tooltip. This one is the default. This one is the customized. Now let me go back to here. Okay. So what's coming to custom visuals? Now we are working on a load more data API. This API is good for 2 reasons. First of all, it overcomes the hard limit that we have, which is 30,000 data point. For example, if you have custom visual that support a big list, for example, for zip codes or maps or names of citizens with IDs, you probably need more than 30,000 data point. So this is good for you. And also, it's good for the case if you have, for example, table, which helps you to improve and boost your performance because you can now load the data in chunks. And this is configurable. As you see in this example, in the code snippet, we did that for 5,000, and you can do it. You can just edit it for whatever you want. And you can just simply load the data in chunks instead of like loading the whole and rendering the whole table. Another thing that we are working on is the sync slicer. It was a huge ask from our community, and it's coming soon to the custom visual slicer. It is actually enabling user to choose syncing slicers and then controlling the visibility and syncing of pages in the sync slicer pane that we have added. And another feature that we are working on and is going to be released soon is localization. So all the Microsoft visuals, the in-house custom visuals, are supporting fully localization on all Power BI languages, which are 44 languages. This is, for example, for Greek and Hebrew. And for example, this is the code snippet to make the Arabic. You can add this to your custom visual code, and then it will support localization. And I just want to mention, it's not only supporting localization in the format pane, but also in the visual in the canvas itself. So that's it.
Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So hi, everybody. My name is Joe Churlov. I'm a program manager on the Excel team. Now, the $1 million... That ruined my attempt to get close to you guys. I was going to say the $1 million question is, if I didn't tell you where I worked, would you have been able to figure it out on your own? I don't know. But we love wearing green on the Excel team. What can I say? Zvi and Ronin explained a number of great benefits of why Custom Visuals is a great platform to develop on. And I'm super excited and happy to be here to share one new benefit that we're announcing here at Build today, which is the ability for, we've integrated the Custom Visuals platform into Excel. What that means for you guys as existing developers of Custom Visuals, or hopefully potential future developers of Custom Visuals, is if you want to write a visual and you want that visual to work in both Excel and Power BI, soon you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to write that visual package once, and it'll load up in both products. And we think that that's a really exciting thing. And it's a great sort of better together story between Excel and Power BI. You may have heard of Excel. It's quite a popular product used in business settings. We have hundreds of millions of users worldwide. And so I think the really compelling thing from a developer perspective is if you're interested in being someone on the Custom Visuals platform, we've now potentially opened up your audience to be a potentially much larger number than what we have today. So that's we think that's an exciting proposition for developers. But that sort of potential upside in user base isn't going to be as impactful unless we make sure that the feature is really discoverable and usable and a pleasure to use in Excel. So I'd like to take a few moments to show you what that experience in Excel is going to look like, because I'm sure you prefer to see actual code over slide decks. So I'm going to switch over to Excel. Oh, this guy slept. All right. So here I am running a pre-release version of Excel. And I'll have more to say about release at the end of the presentation. So Excel, I'm sure at some point or another, most, if not all of you, have had reason to use Excel, whether personally or professionally. I'm sure you recognize that it's a fairly rich, deep, powerful product. You could do a lot with it. And sometimes, the flip side of that great flexibility is some of the most powerful capabilities in the product sometimes, unfortunately, can be like the hardest things to embrace, the more challenging to understand. We really wanted to make sure that we weren't going to do that with the custom visuals experience in Excel. So folks that are doing a lot of charting for their dashboards, for their spreadsheets, want you to stay focused on what it means to build insert charts in your spreadsheets. We don't want to introduce new confusing concepts like, oh, go find some add-in. What is an add-in? I don't know. I just know about chart types. And so we tried to really make this a streamlined experience for existing chart users in Excel. And the way we went about doing that is to really try and bake the experience as deeply into the existing chart experience as possible. Specifically, we did that in a couple ways. One is, I'm sure if you've inserted charts in Excel before, you probably are familiar with the chart options that we have on the ribbon. And one thing that we've done now is we've added a new entry point for custom visuals right in line to where you use charts today. Now, we've done a really good job over the years of training our users that anything and everything to do with charts, in particular if you're talking about inserting and creating charts, is all done here on the charts chunk of the insert tab. And now we're basically saying, hey, we're going to dedicate actually some prime real estate to surfacing this new thing we call custom visuals so that we maximize the potential that our Excel users will find the visuals that you guys are developing. In fact, we actually we had to displace some chart types that actually used to live in this spot because we recognize the importance of making sure we nurture that developer community and exposing those things to our user base. The other way in which we've integrated custom visuals is in our insert chart dialog experience. So if I come here and I click on the recommended charts button, and this happens to be the most common way our end users start when they click, when they go to insert charts, you'll see that now there is a new tab that shows up. It's called the Custom Visuals tab. And when I click on it, I see some of the custom visuals that are available to me for insertion. Now, this tab here can be populated in a number of different ways. The first is the Office Store, or sometimes known as App Source. You heard Svi talk about it a few minutes ago. It's the public place where you guys would publish your visuals if you wanted to reach a mass public audience. When I go to the Office App Add-in Store to acquire a visual, Office remembers that you've downloaded that thing before. We call that an entitlement. And so anytime I come back to this tab, to this dialog, we automatically load all the things that you've acquired in the past. It doesn't matter what file you're in, what workbook, whatever. We know you've used a particular chart before, and we don't want to make you go hunt it down in the store. It'll just show up right here. The second way in which this dialog gets populated is through admin deployment. So if you're an Office 365 admin, and you've identified a visual or maybe a set of visuals that you have determined to be critical for your line of business processes, you can deploy visuals to all your desktops in your tenant. And for the end user, what that means is I just load up this insert chart dialog, and whatever my admin wants me to see, it'll show up here automatically. I don't need to do anything else to find it or acquire it. I'm not going to get into the specifics of admin deployment today. But if you're familiar with how Office add-ins work generally and the deployment story for Office add-ins through the admin portal in O365, it's the exact same mechanics. It's this thing called centralized deployment. You can look it up online, and you can learn more about it. The last way this dialog pane gets populated is for development purposes. So if you're writing your visual and you want to test it out in Excel and see how it works, you can specify Excel side loads visuals from a directory of your choosing, and Excel will scan that directory, and any visuals it finds there, it'll pre-populate this tab for you. OK, but as a user, maybe I come here and I see some visuals. Maybe I don't find what I'm looking for. OK, so I want to go to the store and find more. Well, one thing that we've done is we're not going to force you to back out of here and go load up some generic add-in store that has a plethora of different things. We wanted to make the experience really tailored to the scenario that you're in, which is chart insertion. So we're making it so that you can get to the you can get to the Office Store directly from this dialog. But this is not just the typical Office Store that shows you all sorts of different add-in types. we're making sure we've filtered this down, and it's really tailored to just the custom visuals that exist. So you're not sort of distracted with a bunch of other stuff that's not relevant to what you're trying to do. OK, so enough with the entry points. Let's actually kind of see it in action. And I have some sample data here for that. Don't need to worry too much about what the data is. It's fictional data about some fictional company. I'm trying to visualize like the flow of time and effort spent between different roles and functions within my company. And this sort of concept of a network flow visualization, well, there's no chart type in Excel really that solves that problem for me today. And that's really the wonderful thing about visuals, is we've now, because of the community support, we've opened up the possibility for this long tail of visual solutions that folks like you guys can come and help address. For you data viz geeks in the room, you might look at this data and immediately recognize it as sort of a textbook example of something that a Sankey diagram can solve. And lucky for me, a Sankey diagram already exists in the store as a custom visual. So I'll go and acquire that in the way I showed you guys previously. So if I come to the Custom Visuals tab, I see the Sankey shows up here. It's showing up here for me because I had already inserted it from the store some time ago. I just select that guy and I click OK. And before you know it, I now have a new chart type that never before existed in Excel, embedded in my spreadsheet, connected to my spreadsheet data, showing me a bunch of cool swirly line goodness. Yeah. I just want to reiterate that point, one more time. Like, I think what's really cool about this feature is this Sankey diagram that's a custom visual. This was not built for this demo. This is something that existed. Actually, I don't know when it was written. Probably a year ago or more, 2 years ago. It was built for Power BI when Power BI introduced their custom visual platform. And now, because we've done the integration in Excel, we're able to drop this into my spreadsheet. And I didn't have to change anything about the way that this custom visual is implemented, right? It just works. And so that, I think, is really cool. OK, so we want these custom visuals to feel as chart-like as possible. And so similar to charts, one of the things that happens after you insert it into your spreadsheet is you get this contextual ribbon tab that shows up, same way that charts have their own contextual ribbon tab. And it surfaces bits of functionality that are key to the experience of using custom visuals. So this is a great segue into some of the other bits of the experience. We have our Select Data tab, and we have our Format tab. This is a task pane control that we, essentially we're providing on behalf of you guys, the developers. There's an analogy to this in Power BI. You saw a little bit of it in Tzvi and Ranin's demo. There's two key benefits I think that this thing provides. One is that Excel here is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you as an add-in developer, abstracting away all of the messy details of having to connect to the spreadsheet and pull data and deal with all the data connectivity stuff. And two, it's also handling all of the UI rendering for you as well. So you don't have to worry about what your experience is going to be for surfacing your format properties or your data binding properties. You can stay focused on what's important to you, which is the core of the visual itself. The other nice thing about this task pane is this is the same experience you'll get regardless of what visual you're using. So for an end user, they get a consistent, familiar experience. If I have 10 different custom visuals, I don't have to learn 10 different data binding UIs to figure out how to connect it to my spreadsheet. It's the same thing because it's the same experience every time because Excel provides that as a common task pane control. So a little bit more about this data pane. So here, this is where I would go about telling the visual what parts of my spreadsheet I want to connect it up to. Now you can see here, if you're familiar with Excel sheet references, you can see that it's bound to a data that goes from A1 to C38. That nicely corresponds to this data that I have here. Excel was smart and sort of picked that up automatically because my selection was already in there when I inserted. But if it got it wrong for some reason, I can come in here and I can totally change what it's bound to. I can select some other range. I'm not going to do that, but that's where you would go do that. And you can see that, at least right now, and it's in this current iteration of the feature, the data source is simplistic in that it just lets you connect to the spreadsheet data that you have here. But there's lots of other sort of data types in Excel that we think are interesting. Like we totally expect that in a future update to this feature, you'll be able to connect to data models and pivot caches and all the other sorts of types of data that get squirreled away inside of spreadsheets. But at least in this initial iteration, it's just the spreadsheet data. The binding portion here is meant to mimic the data roles concept that Zvi talked about earlier. So what you see here, source, destination labels, source labels, these are not Excel-specific things. These are things that are defined by the visual. And this is how the user says, oh, this is how the user is going to map the data in the spreadsheet to the roles that the visual provides. So you can see here that source is mapped to source role. If I click this drop down, I can change what the mapping is. The options that I have here, you'll notice source role, destination role, effort, correspond to my column headers. So it's it's meant to be a very simple, approachable interface. And just to show you that it's sort of like live connected, if I came in here and changed this value to something else, I can come back into the chart and I can see that this updated to reflect the right field name. If I wanted to change the binding, say Excel didn't quite actually get the auto binding just right for this chart, this is where I would make those manipulations. So for example, let's say I actually don't want to see a flow from source to destination. Perhaps I want to see it from the other way, from destination to source. That's easy to do here. I just come in here and I delete that binding. I'm now in an invalid state, so the chart's not rendering anything. That's fine. I'll pick destination as the new source. I'll delete this guy as well and switch this back to source. And there you go. It's the same Sankey diagram, but flowing the other direction because, well, I swapped those two fields, so it's doing exactly what I expect. Similarly to the data tab, if I come here to the format, what this is showing me is exposing all of the properties that the visual itself defines, right? So this tab's always going to be changing depending on what visual you have inserted. So for example, if I decide that, well, let's see, maybe I want to change the size of the data labels using the charts because they're too small. I can find where that property is, I can change it, and you can see it's updating automatically. And now I've kind of made my Sankey a little bit ugly, but just like any chart, I can move it around, I can resize it, I can make it draw better. And I have what I feel, something that feels very much like a chart experience inside Excel, but running off the custom visuals platform. That's pretty much it for the demo portion. And what was the number? Is it this one? Yeah. I just wanted to leave you with one final thing, which is, so we're announcing at Build this awesome new capability that's coming for Excel. It's not out yet, but it's going to be in preview, early preview soon. The point of that preview is really to open the gates for developers like yourselves to try it out, to give us feedback, to let us harden the platform and make it a great experience so that we can roll it out for general availability sometime later this year. If you'd like to be involved in that community and help it grow and test it out in Excel and give us feedback, I highly encourage you to navigate to this URL or scan that QR code. That just takes you to a sign-up sheet. You can give us your email address. And me and my team, we will make sure to notify you when the build is available. And that's all I have, guys. And I have a question here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so because you're able to display custom visuals, why not also extend that to display all the stock visuals in Power BI?
The question is, if we're able to do that for custom visuals, why not do that for all the stock visuals in Power BI? That's a good question. I think the short answer there is that the stock visuals are not actually built on the same architecture as custom visuals. Though I think some of those chart types are definitely interesting, it's just actually a different project in itself to bring those forward.
And actually, most of them are already supported in Excel, right? You already have most of them in Excel. Maybe you have like a couple that are missing, but most of them are already there.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Joe. This is indeed very excited, and I can't wait to hear your feedback about how is your experience with custom visuals in Excel. We have here, can you hear me? Okay, okay. We have here resources that you can go to relate to learn about custom visuals. We have the marketplace, as I said, on AppSource. This is the developer documentation, which will get you started with the developer tools. And you can also get them from GitHub. This will give you some examples and guidelines on how to develop them. This, the tools, is basically, this is the developer tools, the SDK. If you need any kind of support, then please contact our support team. We are very responsive, and we'd love to help you guys. We have a community site where developers can ask questions and get answers from other developers, and also our support team is very active there. So if you have any kind of question, you can go to that site and immediately get answers. And we just released a hands-on lab. It's basically a lab where you can go and you can experience the full, like installing the environment until creating your first custom visual. So you can go to that link, and it's free for everyone. You can go, and it takes like about an hour, maybe 2 hours from start to end. There's also a session that is, a workshop developing a Power BI custom visual, which will be tomorrow at 1:15, which will go through exactly that lab. So if you want to experience that lab, you can go tomorrow to that lab done by Peter Myers, and we're also going to be there and help each one of you go through the lab. Some more sessions that are related. We're going to have a theater session that will show you a little more about the development of custom visuals into Excel. It will be a theater session on Theater 1. And we also have a few other sessions about Power BI Embedded. So if you're interested, there is one on Wednesday, and two of them, they're on Wednesday. And there's another one, a theater session, right? Yeah, on today? Oh, CBC, okay. Also, you're welcome to visit the booth. So we have a Power BI booth and Power BI Embedded booth, and the Office Add-ins booth if you want to ask questions. And if you use this QR code, you will go and you will get a full list of all of the related sessions that you see here. Questions? All right, thank you.